Farmhouse Kitchen preparing for Christmas programme for VTI 626, take 1.
Hello again. My guest today, I know some of you have met her before, is Stella Boldy from Sky House in Psych House, is it? Or
yes, Psych House,
I always
that's right.
got this wrong, near Gould. And we just want to tell you, well, you can tell them, about getting ready for Christmas in good time.
Well, it's very important, Dorothy, I think, to prepare the cakes and puddings now because after all, the ingredients are very expensive, and by getting them now and finished, the cakes do mature, and also the puddings.
Yes, yes, so they are better for being made in advance.
Oh, yes, yes. This will, well, both of them will keep at least a year if it was necessary.
I got to cut the cake.
Yes, yes. And you'll be able to see the distribution of the fruit then inside, and also the colour of the cake.
Yes, gorgeous, isn't it?
It smells beautiful, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And I always store this cake in a tin, not the freezer, because as you put things in the freezer, they come out as they're put in, and so they don't really mature. So in the cake tin for the cake.
Yes.
And for the puddings, this of course is the older way of storing the pudding in the with the pudding cloth.
Yes.
Cool, airy, dry place.
Yes.
Lots of people put them in the loft of the bungalows, don't they now?
Yes.
Rather than on the bacon hooks in the kitchen.
Yes. Well, if you like to be getting on with what you're preparing, I'm going to make some truffles and peppermint creams. Now these can be made a bit nearer Christmas probably, but this is an idea today that we're giving you. The truffles and the peppermint creams in nice little boxes, and they're marvellous for presents for anyone you just want to give a small item to. And also I'm going to do some salted almonds because, well, you have anyone in for drinks, if you have some crisps and some of these, well, it makes the drinks go around, doesn't it? So if you want to follow what we're doing, in the old book, which we shall be using right until the end of the programme, you will find the recipes for the peppermint creams, the truffles and the salted almonds. And in the new book, which is ready now for you, you will find Stella's recipe for the Christmas cake and the Christmas pudding. And you will get some information at the end of the programme as to how you get hold of the books. They'll give you the address and everything. Now I'm going across the kitchen and see what Stella's doing.
Now you will find the recipe for my Christmas cake on page 127 with the almond icing and the royal icing in the new cookery book. Now I'm going to line the tin first, and so I put a little grease on the inside of the tin so that this helps the paper to stick. And I've got a double piece of greaseproof paper here, which I've got slightly higher than the tin, and I've turned it up 1/2 inch and then cut diagonally across the 1/2 inch fold up. And I'm going to grease this on the inside. And you can store your cake with this paper round it. It keeps in all the juices and probably prevents it from drying a little. And put it in the tin, pressing it well into the sides. And then I'm using the double piece of greaseproof paper and putting it at the bottom. It just makes it a little bit easier to handle using 2 pieces rather than just 1. And press that well into the base, and you can see how well that fits the tin. Now then, I have here half a pound of butter that I have already creamed, and I'm going to add to that half a pound of brown moist sugar. Now you can use demerara sugar if you wish, or you can use the light moist sugar, the light brown, but I like the dark brown because it improves the colour of the cake. Now, yesterday I prepared the fruit, which is 2 pounds of fruit, in this basin, and I covered it with 2 tablespoons of brandy, so that the brandy soaks well into the fruit and makes the fruit rather moist. And I'm going to add a teaspoonful of mixed spice to the flour, and then I'm going to sieve it over the dried fruit. And then I shall mix the fruit and the flour together a little so that the fruit is coated with flour and you don't get any problems of the fruit sinking in the cake. I'm also going to add the 4 ounces of ground almonds here, which also helps to mature a cake as well, because of the fat, of course, that's contained in the nuts. Now then, a final stir and creaming in of the sugar and the butter, and I'm going to gradually add then a little egg. I have 4 eggs in the basin, and I'm going to add the egg and the fruit flour mixture alternately together until I've got it all mixed in. You'll notice on the front I have 1 pound of currants. This is just to show you the amount of fruit that the fruit mixture was made up of. So 1 pound of currants, 4 ounces of sultanas, which I have slightly chopped, 4 ounces of chopped raisins, which I particularly like chopped because the colour darkens the cake again, and also the tastiness comes out of the raisins. I have 4 ounces of mixed cut peel, and also the 4 ounces of glassy cherries. And I prefer mixing the cake by hand because you find that the mixer does chop the cherries too finely sometimes, and you can't really see the pieces of cherry in it. If you wished, you could use the mixer for creaming the butter and sugar, but to add the fruit, I would suggest that you mix it all by hand. Now, just one more stir round after this, and then I shall put the mixture into the cake tin. Give a good stir so that everything's well mixed in, and then I shall put it into the prepared cake tin. Now this needs to bake in the oven at 300 Fahrenheit or 150 centigrade for those of you that have the modern cookers, or regulo 2 with the gas cooker. Spread the cake mixture a little into the tin. It isn't necessary to leave a hole in the centre because this cake does bake very flat. There are 2 or 3 ways of adding the brandy actually. You can add the 2 tablespoonfuls of brandy to the beaten egg if you wish. I'm wrapping the paper around the tin and fastening it on with string so that this protects the cake in the cooking. And if you find that your oven is rather hot, you can put on the piece of greaseproof paper over the top and prevent it getting too hot.
So I put this in the cooker for
That
you?
would be lovely,
Yes.
Dorothy.
How
yes,
long
please.
does it take?
It takes 3 to 4 hours. In this particular tin, I do find it takes 3 1/4 hours.
Yes.
It depends on the depth a
And
little.
you know, I missed the quantity of flour.
Half a pound of plain flour. That's right.
Thank you.
And now then, I'm making my mother's excellent Christmas pudding recipe. I think now all the family have got this, and I feel that it's very well worthwhile passing on. And I'm using here one of the plastic basins, which I'm greasing, and also the lid. And I have 2½ ounces of breadcrumbs in the bowl here, which I have prepared on the liquidizer. It's much quicker and much easier than rubbing them by the hand. And I'm adding to this 1 ounce of plain flour. It's the breadcrumbs that make this pudding so light. It's rather a large proportion in comparison to the flour. And I've got here 1/4 teaspoonful of nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, and 1/8 teaspoon of ground mace. Ground mace is a lovely spice, I think, because it's the outside of the nutmeg and it has such a lovely, delicate flavour. And I'm adding 2 ounces of demerara sugar and 1 ounce of chopped orange peel, 1/2 ounce of chopped lemon peel, and 1/4 ounce of citron peel. And citron, of course, is a fruit, rather like a lemon. And at the front here, I've shown you the cap peel that I'm using. It was always traditional in our family that you must have cap peel for making your Christmas puddings. And so I've got orange peel, lemon peel, and the citron peel. Now to that, I'm adding the 1 ounce of chopped cherries, the 3/4 ounce of chopped almonds, 1/4 of grated carrot, which helps to keep the pudding moist, 2 ounces of currants, and 4 ounces of seedless, or you can use the stoned raisins. And I have chopped those a little so that, again, the full flavour comes out of them. And I'm using 1 1/2 eggs, or that sounds rather a funny quantity, but you can use 2 small ones because I am making 1/4 of the recipe that's in the book. And to add my syrup, which is a dessert spoonful, I'm putting the spoon in a little flour first and then putting a dessert spoonful, oh dear, of the syrup into the mixture. You see the treacle or the golden syrup which you use falls very easily off the spoon when it is floured. And I have here 1/8 of a pint of brown ale or old ale. And 1 1/2 ounces of melted butter. Now, can you see how that butter is melted and not really oiled? And this, of course, is instead of using suet. And mix these very well together in the basin. And you will see how liquid this mixture is. But of course the breadcrumbs absorb a lot of the moisture, and this is why it needs to be a very, very soft mixture. I'm putting this into the grease basin. You will find that some of the pint basins are a little bit different in shape, and they don't just hold the quantity, even though they are sometimes given as pint basins. But these seem quite all right here, 2/3 full, and then just put the top on there. Now I have here steaming In the base pan, you can have a little rack, which belongs to Dorothy really, and I know her husband made it. This can fit in the bottom pan, and then the second steamer that I have there is one that my mother used, so that's very old. And then the top steamer is where I have a pudding cooking here in a little basin holder, and a friend of mine made this basin holder for me, and it makes it much easier to lift the basin out of the steamer.
Now, if you have an electric frying pan, can you use that?
Oh yes, this is fine, Dorothy, because
Yes.
you can stand 3 or 4 small basins in here, put it on at simmering,
Yeah.
and you'll find that you have to replenish the water just as in the steamer about every 3/4 of an hour, you see.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Yes, oh good. It does save fuel, doesn't it?
Yes, it does save
Yeah.
fuel.
And getting the puddings and the Christmas cake done just takes the stress out of preparing for Christmas,
yes,
doesn't it?
and fuel is so
Yeah.
expensive
Yes, it
as
is,
well.
yes.
It's better if you can cook them this way.
Well, I'm going to make my truffles. First of all, a pair of clean hands, because sweets usually have to be handled, haven't they? Now, in this basin, I have 4 ounces of plain chocolate and 1 ounce of butter. I just cut a little chocolate onto a plate to show you the type of chocolate that I use. It doesn't have to be expensive chocolate, and the ounce of butter. Now, this goes on top, but not touching a pan of hot water. If you let it touch the water, well, there is a danger that the mixture can go a little bit sticky. Mix these together, add in 4 ounces of cake crumbs rather. These are just ordinary Madeira type cake crumbs. They've been allowed to dry a little bit, and they absorb the chocolate and the butter better. Then I have to add 4 ounces of icing sugar and 1 egg yolk. So you will see that I'm using the yolk on the truffles, and I'm going to use an egg white on the peppermint creams. And both these recipes are in the old book, and they're both on the same page, 146. Now, the next ingredient in here is 2 tablespoons of rum. And I know sometimes I say to you, it doesn't matter if the spoon runs over. Well, this time it is better to stick to just the 2 tablespoonfuls, because it makes the mixture much too soft. In fact, it is too soft to handle in any case when you first mix it. So I'm going to put that aside, because I do have some that I've made before. And this is the consistency it should be like, so that you can break off a piece, roll it in your hands, and about the size of a small walnut, I would say. Now, to dip them in, you can use just plain sweetened chocolate powder. I like chopped nuts, very much better, of course. So I'm going to put this one in nuts, and then they go into the sweet cases. Or you can use chocolate vermicelli, just as easy, and that again goes into a little case. Now, to pack them, if you're going to give them as presents, do pack them quite firmly in a box, because if you don't, they're inclined to just move around, lose their shape, lose the chocolate, lose the nuts off, and it just spoil the appearance of them. So I think they're very simple to make, and they can be made probably a little nearer Christmas than we make the Christmas pudding. Now for the peppermint creams. I have the egg white, which I had left, and it is just beaten to a froth, no more. It doesn't want beaten until it's stiff. Now, to this I add my flavouring, which I'm using ordinary peppermint essence, 1 teaspoonful. Now, if you use peppermint oil or oil of peppermint, it's 4 times the price, although you use a quarter of as much, but it doesn't make any difference to the final cost. But if you're only going to use it occasionally, well, the essence is sufficient. Now, I have in this basin a pound of icing sugar which I have sieved. Not all icing sugar needs to be sieved, I know, but it is a nuisance if you get a little bit of hard piece of icing, and it does spoil the texture. Now that takes quite some time to mix, and by the way, if you like the green ones, you can add just 2 or 3 drops of green colouring at this stage before it's mixed to any extent. Now I have a piece here which I have rolled out because, I'll just get rid of this, because I'm going to show you the easiest way of making them. I took half the piece that I'd mixed and I've rolled it out into a sausage type of thing, and all I do is cut pieces off in this manner and then taking a fork just press them out to shape. That saves rolling it out or anything else, and onto a piece of waxed paper, but there you don't have to buy waxed paper even. You can use the waxed paper out of your cornflake packets, so they don't really cost the earth, do they? Now if you want to have them in chocolate, well, here again, melt the chocolate in the same way as you melted the chocolate for the truffles, just over some hot water, and then dip I'll use one that I made before because they should really set a little bit. Dip the peppermint creams in, and there you have a very nice selection, haven't you? Now I'm going to make some salted almonds next. Oh, thank you very much. Yes,
melted, Dorothy.
Yes, just has to froth, hasn't it? Well, you can either buy them ready with the skins off, or you can buy them with the skins on, which I think is probably better. They don't lose their oil in them. All you do is put them in a basin, pour over some boiling water, let it cool, and then strain it, and then all you have to do is just take away the pieces of skin. You see? And that's it. Now, in my pan I have 1 ounce of butter. I've let it froth but not brown, and I'm going to put in, well, about ½ a pound of almonds. There usually isn't ½ a pound by the time you get round to cooking them because somebody's been nibbling at them. But it does, an ounce of butter does up to ½ a pound of almonds. Now these are on page 110 in the old book. Now you stir them over a gentle heat until they are brown in the way these are. Then you turn them out onto a piece of kitchen paper and dredge them quite liberally with salt. Now these little tins that we use, they're a nice way of giving presents if you want to give them for Christmas, and I think that, well, the tins can be used for other things, and I'll put them in and you'll see. The tins can be used for other things, so it's a double present if you're giving them to anyone. If you're going to eat them yourselves, well, it doesn't really matter. Polythene box with a tight lid will do the trick. Now these do take about 5 minutes to brown, because you don't want to do them too quickly, because if you do, they taste a little bit burnt, and the butter tastes a little bit burnt. So I'll turn the heat off, and we'll just, oh, you've turned your pudding out, Stella.
Yes, and I'll just take a little out of the pudding just to show you how light the mixture is made with the breadcrumbs. Can you see that, how
it's lovely.
Nice and light
yes,
it is?
It really is, isn't it? Yes. So there we are. First of all, our Christmas cake and pudding, which can be done now, can't they?
Yes, and it does take 3 to 4 hours for the Christmas pudding to cook in the steamer, you see.
That'll be its first cooking.
Yes, and then it needs another 2 hours when you come to cook it on Christmas Day or whenever you might be heating it.
Yes. So we have our Christmas cake, our Christmas pudding, and ideas for Christmas presents with our truffles and peppermint cream.
Yes.
And of course the salted almonds. So thank you very much for coming along today. It's been a real pleasure having you.
It's been nice to be here, Dorothy.
If you would like either one or the other or both of our recipe books, you will be getting the information in a moment or two. So I'll say goodbye from myself.
Goodbye.
And we'll finish off the almonds.